This video will discuss how long-lived assets are reported and analyzed. Companies report plant assets in the financial statements under property, plant, and equipment, and intangibles separately under intangible assets. Intangible assets do not usually use a contra asset account like accumulated depreciation. Instead, companies record amortization of intangibles as a direct decrease or credit to the asset account. An overall measure of profitability is the return on assets. This ratio is calculated by dividing net income by average total assets. Average total assets are calculated by adding the beginning and ending value of total assets and dividing by 2. Return on assets indicates the amount of net income generated by each dollar of assets. It helps users determine if a company is using its assets effectively. The higher the return on assets, the more profitable the company. JetBlue's return on assets was less than Southwest. Asset turnover indicates how efficiently a company uses its assets to generate sales. In essence, how many dollars of sales does a company generate for each dollar invested in assets? It is calculated by dividing net sales by average total assets. When we compare two companies in the same industry, the one with the higher asset turnover is operating more efficiently. It is generating more sales per dollar invested in assets. Southwest is more successful in generating sales per dollar invested in assets. In Chapter 5, we discuss profit margin. This ratio is calculated by dividing net income by net sales. It tells us how effective a company is in turning its sales into income. In essence, how much income each dollar of sales provides. Return on assets can be calculated as the product of profit margin and asset turnover. This relationship has very important strategic implications for management. If a company wants to increase its return on assets, it can do so in two ways. It can focus on the profit margin and increase the margin it generates from each dollar of goods that it sells, or it can focus on the asset turnover and increase the volume of goods that it sells. For example, most grocery stores have very low profit margins, often in the range of 1 or 2 cents for every dollar of goods sold. Grocery stores focus on asset turnover. They rely on a high turnover to increase the return on assets. Alternatively, a jewelry store does not typically have a high turnover. They tend to focus on having a high profit margin. Let's evaluate the return on assets by evaluating its components, profit margin and asset turnover. Southwest was more effective at generating sales from its assets, while JetBlue was better at deriving profits from its sales. The solutions to this learning exercise will be provided in another document.